On behalf of the Town of Silver City City Council, I'm calling this meeting to order, and I'd like to invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and following that, the salute to the New Mexico state flag. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, the symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. I would like to welcome everyone here tonight, including our town administration. We have our town manager, Alex Brown, our town attorney, Jim Reynolds, our community development director, Jackie Olea, and our town clerk, Alfred Cedillo. We also have our police chief, Patillo. Welcome. Let's see, is Fire Chief Lambert? No, he's not here. And our code enforcement officers, I guess we have Thomas Hernandez here tonight. Welcome. I would also like to welcome members of the press when they arrive, hopefully, and community members who are here. The next item on the agenda is changes to the agenda. Does anyone want to make changes to the agenda? Councilor Cano.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to move 11F from where it is on the agenda to after 7, public input.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Bencoma?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Any opposed? Nay. Motion carries unanimously. Next is item 3, ceremonies, and there are none. Item 4 is proclamations, and once again, there is none. Item 5 is councilor comments. First tonight is Councilor Prince.
Thank you, Mayor Ladner. After working today to help one of our region's schools with their active live shooter security system, after spending yesterday handling my 75-year-old mother's evacuation from Manatee County just south of Tampa to Dothan, Alabama, coordinating with the government insurer of last resort citizens about plans expecting total loss of her home, after spending last week with government employees, after actioning the previous week's endangered missing persons gaps, after that week's 127 phone calls between community leaders, state police investigators, businesses with cameras, union leaders, family and hospitality professionals to host said family, after spending a previous week collating gaps in training and resources I'm concerned we're missing from our municipality's new insurance compared to the municipal leagues, all in between work and weekends to coordinate event production for Pride, the Gila River Festival, and local underground music events. I'm a bit tapped out this evening when it comes to comments, so I prepared these ahead of time. I thank my fellow councilors, city management, and all of our teams for the stability folks have had to work off of. During the RICO fire last year, I remember seeing Robert Escada at the Upper PA Volunteer Fire Department ensuring the municipal pumps are at full bore to keep them stocked with water while Chief Lambert was holding the line up Bear Creek Road. At the Jaybird Canyon asphalt spill, I remember Officer Dominguez, Chairman Roderick, and John Money from the State Environment Department, and especially Elizabeth Toney from the Forest Service down in that Black River working to improve the situation. Chief Portillo, I see our municipal officers, and Thomas, I see code enforcement out regularly, ensuring safe, clean, shared streets and public spaces, all of which have been well utilized this year. A dozen more departments with hundreds of more people that make the difficulties of living in this world easier. To my fellow councilors and mayor, I wish to encourage efforts to strengthen these teams and all the resources that can help, especially when we're faced with threats. When it's go time, during moments when every effort matters and our community is faced with shared challenges, they show up and change the situation from despair to an active hope that I have seen and felt more in these last few years than in the more stable decades that preceded them. That is precious and something that does not come without great care and struggle. Beyond soft skills, navigating fear, misinformation, and conspiracy, utilizing our power as elected officials to confront and cross the chain of command so the public doesn't put themselves in harm's way, distract efforts, and instead contribute meaningful help that only the thousands we represent can, we hold powerful roles. Let's fill them and use them. To the public, I can't speak to the experiences of my fellow counselors, but I will encourage greater and deeper engagement. I believe we all have to wear too many hats and get spread too thin in our public, private, and professional lives. It's still too much work to get up to speed with our local governments, their various departments, voted plans, and processes of action and revision. But the more we can do for outreach and education gets us to better outcomes. When emergencies are happening, folks are not looking to read and learn. Training and best practices are what we fall back on, not what we rise to. This will be a good time to get in touch and catch up on the National Incident Management System and Incident Command System, certifications and licensing so we can share a communication strategy, learn about our area's staging, and who to call for what can change these outcomes and save lives. Many of our boards and committees share too few members. Trust is critical. I hope we can face our challenges without undermining one another, using threats, or contributing to unnecessary harm. We have harder times ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bencomo.
Thank you, Mayor. First thing I'd like to say is it was nice to understand and thoroughly hear your message, Nick. I appreciate you talking a little bit slower so that we can all understand. Thank you. Good job. I attended the Outdoor Recreation Conference a couple of weeks ago. It was well attended. It was in Las Cruces. I heard a lot of panelists talk about the importance of having outdoor recreational activities and how it has an impact economically in our communities. So that was a nice conference to attend. I also have sat in this is my second code enforcement meeting. I basically sit in there, just kind of hear what our code enforcement officers, they've got their plate pretty full and they're trying to address all the issues that they can. I did sit in on the housing round table that was presented sometime last week. And they were basically there to review the current trends in the housing, the lack of housing, and seeking any input and current needs here in Silver City and Grand County. I also sat in on my first Planning and Zoning Commission meeting and heard a nice presentation on land use in Silver City, and I could tell that the chairman of that commission is really seeking public input as to how we can make things better, correct issues, and find solutions to correct those things. And I know Juno is not here from the Daily Press, but I really want to commend her on the article that she wrote on former Councilor Ralph Dominguez. It was a very well-written article. Too bad she's not here. Nick, please pass that on to her. I can't help but think that really helped in the healing of the family. So please pass that on to her. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Kano.
Thank you, Mayor. I too have a list of places I've been recently that I wanted to talk about. The first one was the Silver City Pride Festival. That was very well attended by people from around the Southwest, I think. There's people from other states there. That one means a lot to me because I know that this community has grown quite a bit in their acceptance, and to see us having pride was really nice. I hope that continues to grow. I then attended the Outdoor Mexico Conference as well, the Outdoor Economics Conference in Las Cruces. This was my 7th conference. I do serve on that board, and I was very thankful to my mother, Patricia Cano, for tabling at that event for the town of Silver City. I also want to thank Clerk Cedio for all of his work getting ready for that. He came up with some really great designs, and people loved what we took. We heard more than once that we had the best pens, which I agree with. There are more in his office if you are interested in some of those. A lot of people pick those up, and so they're making it around the country now. As soon as I came back from that, then I spoke at the Gila River Festival, which I was also a member of the board for. The Gila River Festival, it was in its 19th year, and it brought in a lot of really cool people who spoke about the need for us to really conserve and protect the Gila for the next 100 years, so that the next few generations can enjoy it as well. Then I went to the land use and housing meetings that were put on by Jackie Olea. Thank you very much for that. those meetings were excellent. Those are probably some of the best and most well-attended things that I've been to in this community. Some of the input was really, really good, and I think we have some really good ideas of where we need to go as far as land use code changes, and also some affordable housing ideas that some people have. I'm hopeful that there will be some more meetings as those consultants continue to visit us. Let's see, let me cross off what I've talked about already. I also attended the 150-year anniversary of the St. Vincent de Paul Catholic Church. It was a weekend-long festivity. We presented the proclamation that we had our last meeting again at their dinner. There was also a mass. The bishop was here. It was great. I grew up in that parish. I'm no longer a part of it, but it was great to be back and to celebrate with them. I too want to thank Juno Ogle from the Daily Press. Her article about the naming of the rec center was excellent. I think it really explained to a lot of people, especially newcomers, why we're naming the rec center what we are. I've gotten a lot of really good input for it, so thank you to her for that. Today was the first day of early voting. I was voter number 532 at about 4:15 this afternoon, which is a pretty good number for the first day. So if people are interested in early voting, they can do so in this building at the county clerk's office during regular business hours for the next couple of weeks, and then early voting will start also in Baird in a couple of weeks. And then the last thing I wanted to do was to just acknowledge the passing of John Arthur Smith. He was a senator in Deming, but his impact on this community was also enormous. I can't even tell you all of the things that he put money into, invested in our community. Western has a building that is named after him because of all of the work he did for Western. So if we could just have a moment of silence for Senator Smith, I would really appreciate it.
Anything else?
No, sir. Thank you.
Councilor Snyder.
Thank you, Mayor. I attended the zoning roundhouse at the Grant County Convention Center, as well as Councilor Cano and Councilor Bricomo. I was unable to attend in person the housing roundhouse, but was able to view the recording of the presentation on the housing and zoning meeting. Sulphur City is lucky to have the ability to view important meetings at your convenience due to the meetings being recorded. The housing presentation was very informative and identified areas that needed to have more research. The zoning and housing roundhouses have gathered public input so that zoning and housing topics can be blended to start the process of amending and improving the land use code to fit Silver City's current and future needs. The development of the land use and housing plan will aid to make housing more affordable. Zoning restrictions could be modified to allow for easier, more efficient construction of affordable and middle-income housing. An improved land use codes will adapt zoning to the community need and aid in development of the housing plan. The housing plan will then aid in providing for more affordable housing in Silver City. I am encouraged by the positive public response and hard work of the town employees in the first step of the process of improving the land use and housing plan. Modifying the land use code and housing plan is a huge project, and I'd like to thank the Planning and Zoning Commission, Community Development Department, and Jackie Olea for taking on this huge project and starting the first step in a community-driven, proactive approach in amending and improving the land use code and housing plan.
Thank you. It's been a really busy month and a half for the mayor too, but I don't want to go through all of that. I'd rather go next to agenda item 6, approval of minutes of the September 10, 2024 meeting. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Prince,
I move to approve the regular meeting minutes of September 10th, 2024.
is there a second? Councilor Snyder,
I second the motion.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Next is public input. First on the list tonight is Linda Schuh. And I think you gave us a script of your input.
I did, but may I approach? I also have,
You want a copy?
no. This is what we see. That's from our kitchen window.
and I think you've shown it to the other counselors.
My name is Linda Shu. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Ma'am, could you pull the
Oh, okay,
microphone?
like that. Okay, is that better? Okay? Okay. My husband and I live at 1520 West 8th Street in Silver City, on land we have owned for 20 years. I passed around the phone with the video. You didn't all get to see it, but what we were looking out of our kitchen window this past weekend. It's not the first time we've seen it. This is a fire. This is a bonfire at the university, but each time it is frightening. Everyone I've showed the video to has the same reaction. And it's not only because it's such a large fire and so close to us and our neighbors, but also because it hasn't rained here for so long. We're in a drought situation, and which is the cause of so many fires. So we have to question the necessity and wisdom of this ultra-hazardous activity being held in an area surrounded by neighborhoods and being sanctioned by the city. We understand that it is the Silver City Fire Department who issues the burn permit to allow this bonfire on WNMU property. And it is also the fire department who light the fire, maintain it, and put it out. And please, this is not a comment on the abilities of our fire department. My grandfather was a fire chief of a major city until 1945, and my father followed as a battalion chief all of his life. I have a deep respect for the men and women who have chosen this field and their abilities. But sanctioning the city, this activity says that should anything happen with this fire, like a spark igniting brush or residents or trees, that the city will be liable, not the university. We know that this is an annual and traditional event at WNMU's homecoming, and we are not questioning this, nor are we proposing that they stop having this activity. But sometimes things change and we have to adapt. Why not a new venue? Why not the gravel field where the city puts on the 4th of July fireworks or some other out-of-the-way area? These days, all students have vehicles. The university puts a lot of energy into events, and a new venue outside of neighborhoods, outside of our neighborhood, could even be better attended. So what we are asking is for the city and the fire department to stop sanctioning this ultra-hazardous activity on university grounds and at the liability to the city citizens, and to find an alternative venue off campus, outside of neighborhoods, to hold this event. And I just want to add that wherever the event is held, that it please be well publicized. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the privilege of having two Alex Browns in Silver City. The Alex Brown that's going to talk now, I think is a coach at the high school, not our city manager. Mr. Brown,
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, counselors, for
could you
having
pull
me.
the microphone up to your mouth? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and it's nice to finally meet the famous Alex Brown in town. All right, so my name is Alex Brown. And before I get going, I also want to commend the chief on, I've had some very positive interactions with your officers since I moved to town, including dealing with some domestic issues in my neighborhood that are challenging, but they've dealt with it with a lot of empathy and very well done. So thank you. So I grew up in Portland, Oregon, and I moved here with my wife in January. And as the mayor mentioned, I was immediately welcomed into the community. It's exceeded all my expectations in so many ways. Within 1 month, I became the assistant track coach at Silver High School, and I'm now helping with the cross-country team as well. And so it's tough for me to be here and say anything negative, but the thing that I'm here for is I don't understand why it's so widely accepted to allow for loud vehicles, cars, trucks, motorcycles to disrupt everyone's peace in this normally, what seems like a normally quiet community. I live at 2924 North Man Drive, which is 1 block off of North Swan by Fox Field, right by the track. And the trucks, motorcycles, mostly trucks and motorcycles, they rip, they roar, they clap, they rumble. And this usually starts about 9 p.m. and it's not all at once. It's kind of one after another, like a parade of disruption. Sometimes it goes to 11, but lately, for some reason, the last couple of weeks, I've been woken up at 2 a.m., 4 a.m., and I don't know why. In the summertime, I had to close the windows and run my swamp cooler, which was not something I wanted to do. Now I've turned to using my noise canceling earbuds to fall asleep at night. And it's not pleasant to try and sleep with earbuds in your ears, but what's crazier is that they don't actually even work. My earbuds can make an airplane sound very gentle, but for some reason, the way that these vehicles have different pitches, some are high, some are very low rumbles, and they're infrequent, my noise canceling headphones don't work on them. And it's also, I think, why they're partially so disruptive to the neighborhood. My understanding is that the town currently has a 95 decibel limit on vehicle noise. Is that correct? Does anybody know off the top of their head? I think I read that it's 95 decibels. I have a decibel meter that I've been using in the neighborhood, and I think our baseline is about 45 decibels at 9 p.m. And 95 decibels is exactly 32 times as loud as our current baseline noise level in the neighborhood. And because sound carries, that sound trespasses into every home that happens to be within that range. So for example, when I drove here tonight from my house, my car measured about 1.1 miles. I think it's more like 0.9 miles as the crow flies. But every night I hear vehicles going up the hill on Silver Heights right here. So how many houses is that affecting? Or how many people is that affecting? Is it 1,000? Is it more? And what gives that one vehicle driver the right to affect so many people? So my guess is that the 95 decibel limit was probably established when there were a handful of Harleys, a handful of pickup trucks that didn't have mufflers, that kind of thing. There's been an explosion, as I'm sure you all are aware, an explosion of modified exhausts. Some are coming right off the factory line with tuned exhausts, and most of them are aftermarket. And so I guess I'll just end by saying everything about this town has been welcoming. This is the only thing that I have found to be a negative experience since I've moved here. And I frankly wasn't even going to bring it up with the town council because I didn't feel like I had the right because I'm such a new transplant to Silver. But everybody I've talked to.
Mr. Brown, you have 1 minute left.
Thank you. Old timers, transplants, everyone seems to be bothered by this, maybe not as equal as me, but certainly they're bothered by it, and they seem to all say that it's been getting a lot worse lately. I know that other towns in New Mexico are dealing with this. Albuquerque even went so far as to have a pilot program to have noise cameras on their streets, but they have not yet begun that program, and I'm not sure why. All I ask of you tonight is to simply talk to your constituents, talk to your friends, talk to your family, find out if they are also bothered by this increase in noise that's happening with our vehicles. And if it turns out that it does seem to be a problem that other people are bothered by, maybe we could have a pilot program just to measure ambient noise, find out what we're actually dealing with.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Next is Rich Sickler.
I too am a recent arrival.
Would you remind your companion that he also has 5 minutes? Okay?
We got 10 minutes, monkey. Cool. So I'm also a recent arrival here to Silver City, and I've come to really like it. It has a nice community feel. Lots of people know each other. But what astounded me was when I arrived here, I found I was on a piece of property that was owned by somebody called Madam Millie. Who was Madam Millie? Well, as I found out, Madam Millie happened to operate a brothel. That's the least interesting thing about her. She was a pillar of this community for over 40 years. And yet there's no statue. There's no day honoring her. That's why I'm here, to suggest that. A day for Madam Millie, to honor her legacy. Because she was a businesswoman, an employer, a philanthropist, an animal lover. Read the book if you haven't read the book. It's a fascinating story. And I think her story could actually help promote and benefit Silver City. There's a town called, I think it's Leadville, Colorado. They have an attraction every year. They're honoring a murderer who ate people, a cannibal. Now, if Leadville, Colorado can honor a cannibal, or celebrate a cannibal, I don't know if they're honoring him, you can honor Madam Millie. And her story needs to be told. She was a survivor. She was a lot of things. Like I said, the least interesting thing to me was she ran a brothel. But I mean, so many years, and you hear people talk about her, everybody has something good to say about her, yet the only thing, there's a plaque, a little faded sign by the post office, and a assisted living facility named Millie's. And you ask younger people in town who Madam Millie is, they don't know. So I think that should change. I hope one day to go see a major motion picture based on her life. And speaking of, the loud noise, that's not from Millie. So I've said my piece there. The loud vehicles. I live on Racetrack Road, of all places, and people often think of it as a racetrack. And it is deceptive. I've even found myself going 30 miles an hour in a 25 zone. Sorry. And someone suggested maybe speed bumps, because it looks like a wide open country road, but there's lots of houses. And there's a 30-mile zone, and then it goes down to 25. People regularly go 40, 45 through there. So, and I'm sure there's records of accidents on Racetrack Road. I've seen the ambulances going down there. So, let's honor Madam Millie with a day every year. Big parade. People can find out what kind of person ran a brothel in Silver City for over 40 years. And it was the community she took care of that protected her. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, the monkey's name is Millie.
Next is Mr. Anthony Quintana. Pass that to Alfred.
I'm sorry. So I'm just kind of here to talk about the ordinance that you guys are going to be discussing later on for the approval or disapproval for some of the cannabis stuff that's going on in the town. I'm sure that you guys are aware that our family is involved with a cannabis company here in Silver City, and we've helped with some of the legislation when it was getting formed up in Santa Fe and stuff like that. I am all for your guys' stuff that you guys are trying to push forward. I think the biggest issue that I see is that we should be holding the same standards for all the businesses as far as when it comes related to cannabis. I like the fact that we're implementing the laws and the ordinance of what we're doing, but also not making it harder for some of the businesses that are doing it legally, and not punishing the people that are doing it legally, and making sure that everybody that is doing these types of businesses are doing them properly. We just recently got inspected through the Cannabis Control Division, and we were prepping forever, just making sure that we were following all the guidelines, everything. And it's not to make an issue, or we don't want to be over-regulated, but we have that type of pressure on us as far as paying taxes, doing all this stuff, just to stay in compliance with city, state, and even federal ordinances and laws and regulations. So when you guys pass this stuff, I just hope you guys keep in mind that type of information. And even with me and as far as other people that are involved in the cannabis industry, I know that we're all for getting with you guys, talking about some of the stuff because maybe you guys don't know or aren't informed as far as the do's, the don'ts and all that stuff. And I, for one, especially with this, because it is still federally legal, we try to like be an open book, you know what I mean, as far as what we're trying to do. No smoke and mirrors. So again, that's just my input, you know what I mean? And again, it's just of making sure that us as a community are holding all the same standards for all the businesses that are saying they're not in doing this, being involved in this industry. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next is item 11F, which goes right above item 8, reports. Item 11F is the approval/disapproval of a notice of intent ordinance 1333 to adopt an ordinance amending Appendix C Land Use and Zoning Code of 2010, Article 3, District Regulations, Section 3.2, Use Table, and Section 3.3, Use Regulations, subsection 3.31, Use Specific Standards, paragraph 3.31H, Cannabis Establishments, subparagraph 3.31H2, A through 2I of the Municipal Code of the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico, to provide zoning and regulation of cannabis establishments pursuant to the Cannabis Regulation Act of 2021 as amended. Ms. Olea?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. So the changes that are proposed in this ordinance would change cannabis retailer to a conditional use in the historic district and remove it from the commercial light district. Currently, the commercial light district hasn't been implemented, but we've been discussing with the land use code updates to enact that zoning around the high school. So there's a commercial sort of corridor around 32nd Street, so that would encompass the commercial light portion. So with these changes, we would remove any opportunity for cannabis businesses in that area, since the school is already there and they're required to be 300 feet from a school anyways. And then another change is allowing class 1, 2, and 3 in the commercial highway district, and also making a conditional use cannabis producer in the historic district, and making that cannabis producer a conditional use in the commercial highway district. If you all have any
Are
questions
there
for
any
me?
questions or comments? Councilor Kano?
I just wanted to say that one of the big changes is that everything in downtown will be conditional use, which means that every person who wants to open a business, a cannabis business from now on, will have to come to us first. I think that's an important step, just based on previous issues that we've had, so I'm hoping that you will support this. And there were also some changes that are in red. I don't know if you noticed those on the other pages. Those are actually meant to cover the cannabis consumption areas, so that one of the main things is that a cannabis consumption area needs to be a standalone building with its own air system, which is something that's important as we get more and more cannabis businesses.
Councilor Prince?
Just some of the major changes that I'm seeing here, especially for the changing of zoning required for manufacturing and production outside of the retail spaces. I just wanted to make sure that there's an understanding of process just while we go through this next 2-week period here. If there needed to be appeals, I understand for the historic downtown district, we'll probably be seeing things move through the design review committee.
Will you be planning and zoning?
Mayor, if I may, so the conditional use would run through the planning and zoning district. The Historic Design Review Committee is more for the outside, the exterior modifications, if they were going to put, like change the facade of a building, things like that. So they wouldn't be involved in the regulation of a cannabis business. It would be the Planning and Zoning Commission through the conditional use permit. And if there's an appeal process, then they would come to the town council.
Just wanted to make sure we had that. Mr. Mayor, if I have one more question?
I'd just like to remind the council, address your comments to the chair, please.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
I also just wanted to then confirm for event permitting. We host a number of cannabis-positive events, those sometimes that are shared out into the public streets. Can we anticipate changing the ordinance in these ways as changing that permit process kind of runs similar parallel to what we do for alcohol permitting? What should we expect if there will be any changes that will affect event permitting?
Mr. Mayor and Councilor Prince, I don't believe we've had any consumption events with cannabis because I believe it's through state statute that you're not allowed to have consumption outside of a designated cannabis consumption area. So these regulations wouldn't necessarily impact those events because you can't have them outside of a cannabis consumption area. But yeah, I don't know if we need anything for a specific cannabis event to happen. I think some of the state law would restrict that already.
Just wanted to make sure that's out in public. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councilor Bincoma?
Yes, Mayor, I think that there was an event that took place downtown, so I think we need to be, take that into consideration.
Mr. Mayor, so that particular instance was at a designated cannabis consumption area and it took place inside of the business. So they're registered and legally licensed to be able to operate that sort of event. The event didn't go on into the street like we do for alcohol permits. Sometimes people can, for the public celebration permits, it goes on into the street. That is not allowed by state law. So they have to be within their licensed area to be able to do that, so.
Mr. Brown?
No, I was just going to verify.
Any other questions or comments? I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Kano?
I move to approve of a notice of intent ordinance 1333 to adopt an ordinance amending Appendix C Land Use and Zoning Code of 2010, Article 3, District Regulations, Section 3.2, Use Table, and Section 3.3, Use Regulations, Subsection 3.3.1, Use Specific Standards, Paragraph 3.3.1H, Cannabis Establishments, Subparagraphs 3.3.1H, 2A through 2I of the Municipal Code of the Town of Silver City, Grant County, New Mexico, to provide zoning and regulation of cannabis establishments pursuant to the Cannabis Regulation Act of 2021 as amended.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Bincoma?
I'll second as
We
stated.
have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Sadia.
Councilor Bincoma,
Aye.
Councilor Prince.
Aye.
Councilor Snyder,
Aye.
Councilor Kano.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next is item 8, reports. Mr. Brown?
I don't have any reports. We just have a presentation on, from the president of the Silver City Recycles about a pilot project that we had at the wastewater treatment plant. Mr. Lemmy?
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor and councilors, thank you for inviting me to talk to you tonight. My name is Chris Lemmy. I am the president of Silver City Recycles, which is a nonprofit public benefit corporation. We are organized to promote community activities in the Grant County, New Mexico area that reduce the amount of waste that is deposited into our local landfill. In addition to recycling inorganic materials such as aluminum, cardboard, or plastic, Our mission also includes facilitating and managing programs that compost organic waste. Our experience in materials handling, sorting, and the elimination of unwanted materials from processing streams is essential for processing woody biomass, which is required in the biosolids composting process. What are biosolids? Biosolids, or sludge, is what is left over from the sewage treatment process after raw sewage is processed through biological activity and filtration, and most of the effluent water is removed. The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, which sets the guidelines for states to regulate wastewater treatment plants, classifies wastewater sludge, like what is generated at the Silver City Wastewater Treatment Plant, as Class B. This is considered a regulatory biohazard. This classification requires special handling and transportation of this material, and its disposal is highly regulated in order to reduce the risk of human disease. The EPA's accepted disposal methods of Class B sludge, in order from most preferred to least, is composting, land application without composting, deep well injection, dried and incinerated, and finally, landfilled. The EPA acknowledges the liabilities for any municipality to landfill biosolids. These include a vast increase in methane production, a greenhouse gas that's 50 times worse than CO2. Reduced landfill space for other materials, which reduces the lifespan of a landfill. And the loading, transport, and handling of this Class B sludge, which again is a biohazard. The EPA lists composting biosolids as the preferred method of disposal, primarily because this turns them from a biohazard, which is a liability, into a valuable resource that can be used locally in agriculture, landscaping, and habitat restoration. According to the New Mexico Environment Department, approximately half of all communities in the state currently compost their biosolids left over from the wastewater treatment process. At the moment, all biosolids produced at the Silver City Wastewater Treatment Plant are buried in our local landfill. In May, Silver City Recycles visited the wastewater treatment plant in Carlsbad, New Mexico, to witness firsthand a large-scale wastewater sludge composting operation. The volume of raw sewage processed daily in Carlsbad is approximately 10 times what we process here in Silver City. Yet, the entire composting process required only about 40 man-hours of work to operate. This is possible for such a large operation primarily because of a high degree of automation that they have employed, using specialized machinery such as belt-fed wood chippers, screen sifters, and high-capacity front-end loaders. However, the plant manager we talked to suggested that an operation at a small plant like the one we have in Silver City can be completed and employed with a small front-end loader and one dump truck. In essence, Silver City Recycles is proposing to take full ownership of a full-scale biosolids composting operation on-site at our local wastewater treatment plant. Nothing will change in the current sludge processing except when the dump truck is full of sludge, instead of going to the landfill, it will not leave the treatment plant property. Instead, it will dump the sludge in a dedicated drying bed where all of the composting operation will be fully contained. At this point, Silver City Recycles employees will take over and build the compost piles by adding woody biomass. This can include everything from wood chips to yard waste to pecan shells and any other biologic waste stream. We will also add biochar, which is an environmentally green form of charcoal. Over a pile's lifetime of approximately 45 days, Silver City Recycles will monitor its temperature, add water as necessary, turn it 3 times, test it for pathogenic E. coli per EPA requirements. Once all of the compost tests negative, it will be moved off-site and distributed to the town of Silver City and the public. We are proposing to fully implement this disposal method for no more than the current full cost of disposal. Some of the benefits of a large-scale composting operation in our community are the addition of approximately 1,000 cubic yards of a high-nutrient compost into our local environment on an annual basis, supporting other organizations that maintain plantings, grass, and trees, such as the town's Public Works and Parks Department, the school district, and the university, to name just a few. Economic development through job creation, particularly for young adults, gross receipts on sales, and new revenue streams through sales to entities that are outside of Grant County. Supporting other nonprofits that are working on habitat restoration, erosion control, and other ecosystem improvement projects. Providing materials for ancillary activities such as a native tree nursery, a garden center, vermiculture grow beds, food composting, and many other activities. Educational opportunities for K through 12 school children, teaching them everything from the carbon cycle to entrepreneurial ideas to food growing techniques. Becoming a model for the mining district communities to implement similar programs. And partnering with the town of Silver City to apply for grant monies that are only available to composting programs. In conclusion, Silver City Recycles is proposing that for the same cost of disposal, our community can receive many more benefits which are currently not available to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, if I understood what you were saying correctly, your proposal would go from basically the worst practice of processing sludge going to a landfill to the best practice that the EPA recommends. And
That's correct.
that's correct? And I'm understanding there'd probably be a little bit of green work that would be going on as well.
Yes,
Yes,
like all these
yeah,
other projects
projects.
that I suggested that the compost can be used for.
And could you expand maybe a little bit on your pilot project and how successful it was?
Yes, so in April, we were awarded a contract with the town to do a demonstration project at the wastewater treatment plant to demonstrate the whole process. So we took about a cubic yard of sludge from the wastewater treatment process and added about 2 cubic yards of pecan shells and about a half cubic yard of biochar. We put it into a structural compost pile, which has specific dimensions, and we monitored its temperature for about 14 days. Per EPA regulations, it has to reach 131 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 days consecutively. We reached that for 10 days consecutively, and for the next 2 weeks, it stayed above 100 degrees. So that indicates that it's killed off all of the pathogenic E. coli, but also per EPA regulations, we had samples sent to a national lab to verify that, and they didn't detect any pathogenic E. coli. And in fact, they also came back and said, your very mature compost has very high nutrient levels, and it was only 40 days old. Usually mature means 6 to 9 months.
So it was very successful.
It was a very successful program, yes.
Any other, Councilman Prince?
Thank you, and I wish to appreciate the forward thinking. The more that we can close loops, especially with how far out on the supply chain we are, is more than commendable. And of course, the number one thing we're looking at, especially with high rainfall, is the loss of soil in our region. So anything to be able to do to amend, to abate some of these ongoing concerns over the next 100 years is wonderful. Just in my own personal reading and some of the challenges I know that other communities have faced, I would encourage to make sure to check in on some of the communities that we have in Michigan. The wastewater treatment facilities and sort of the use of the land there is wildly different than what we see in our communities. But some of the emerging concerns when it comes to PFAS is one of the ones that, especially when we have to deal with wastewater treatment, most folks are really scared at looking at just how much more we have to deal with.
Yes.
So just before anything hopefully goes too far and spreading too much out, I just want to make sure that those concerns are heard ahead of time. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Councilor Kano?
So I'm not sure if this is something that would be approved by our administrators or if it would be something that would be approved by us, but if it's gonna be approved by us, I would like to see like a budget. How much is this gonna cost us? How much is it gonna cost us in employee time? What the upfront costs are gonna be, things like that. Those are things we need to know before we can approve anything. And I would like those in writing before a meeting, not just during a presentation. So when you come back the next time, if you could bring that, I would appreciate it.
Sure.
Any other comments, questions?
I just really fully support this environmental project and would like to see the town move forward as fast as possible on getting it started, because it does save landfill space and it is the best practice for disposing of sewage sludge.
Mr. Brown, will this come to the council as a proposal in the near future?
It'll come to the council once we're able to get a clear budget, an actual use for the material, a guaranteed use for the material, not just a proposed use, because we need to know that it's actually going to be disseminated and not just become a burden, long-term burden for the town. So once those questions are answered, then we'll bring it back to the council.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lemmy.
Thank you.
Mr. Brown, do you have any other reports?
No, sir.
Next on the agenda, did you say, no, yeah. Next on the agenda is public hearing, and there are none. Next is unfinished business, item 10, and there is none. Next is agenda item 11, new business. Under new business 11A is the approval/disapproval of the Silver City Museum mission statement. Mr. Rosali?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council, for hearing this proposal. I just want to say how pleased and honored I am to work in a community that uses public funds to run a museum. Now, most of us think museums are the community's memory, and they are. We save important things like Madam Millie's stories and others. But the best museum is a useful museum. It's not just a collection of stuff that gathers dust, but it provides some unique service to its community. And that's what's driven me in my whole career, and I'm really happy and honored to be here in Silver City with a museum like that. So you may think a mission statement is just, words on a wall. But the mission statement drives everything the museum does. And in your packet, you have a memo. I think you've all seen my memo. What I could find in the way of a mission statement for the museum was a little foggy. And after talking to a previous museum director, they said there was a mission statement that was approved by the mayor's advisory group at the time, almost 20 years ago. But I'm under the impression that it's town council that has the authority to approve a mission statement for any of its departments, right? So in my memo, I looked at the last version of the mission statement and I found it was okay, but it wasn't great. And most museum practices these days, 20 years forward, it has three parts to it. It says what we do, we run a museum, we collect stuff, we do exhibits. It should mention who we do it for, not some vagary. But the third piece that was really missing from the original mission statement was why the museum exists. And I think a museum ought to be a very important piece of the community. As important, or maybe almost as important as the police department or the fire department or civil grounds. It's the museum, it's the community's spirit and soul. And I think a good museum is an active museum that helps a community grow. So that's what you see in the proposed mission statement.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Council Prince?
I just want to check in, this might be a question better addressed to the mayor. We are still running a museum committee, if I'm not mistaken, and we do have appointees on that. Right now, I've got signatures coming in from our director, but without wanting to bypass the reliance that we have on our public bodies, has this already moved in front of our museum committee? Has this gone through approval process?
Yes, the mayor's museum advisory group has seen it, has made some suggested changes, yes.
Just want to confirm for due diligence.
Yep.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Any other comment? Do I hear a motion? Councilman Coma?
Mayor, I move to approve the Silver City Museum mission statement.
And is there a second?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Kano?
second that motion is stated.
Any discussion? I'd like to do this as a roll call, Mr. Sadir.
Councilor Binkomo.
Aye.
Councilor Prince.
Aye.
Councilor Snyder.
Aye.
And Councilor Khan.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is
Could I add an
11B.
addendum? I won't be too long.
Thank you.
May I say one more word?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, to the point of fostering informed perspectives on the present, that's what a good museum ought to do. We're working on a new exhibit. You have a save the date kind of postcard about women's role in creating our healthcare system. It's a historical look at the beginnings of our healthcare system in Grant County, but it takes it present. And we're working with the CEO of both hospital and the health system to make sure what we present to the public is useful to them as well. Last thing, in the Altitude magazine, the Silver City Museum has written an article about all the great things it is to live here in Silver City, and the pages are marked. We were able to negotiate a deal with Advanced Air, so we got a really nice advertisement for a reduced price. So thanks, that's the end of the commercials. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Rosali. Next is item 11B, the approval/disapproval of RFP 24/25 IRP Marketing Services. Mr. Brown.
Mayor and Council, as you know, we brought this RFP earlier this year, and we remanded it back because of some issues with the RFP itself. The RFPs are based on qualifications, not actual price. This RFP is to promote tourism within Silver City using lodgers tax dollars. I do want to say that earlier on in my career, the visitor center at that time used to use, the town allocated a large portion of its lodgers tax to the visitor center to do marketing, tourism marketing for the town of Silver City. But at that time, they chose to focus on retirement, recruitment, to bring retirees into our community. To bring people to move into the community. But the focus of lodgers tax dollars is to promote tourism, which has a short-term effect on our town resources, such as infrastructure, police, and fire resources, and such as that. Earlier in the early 2000s, they focused on recruiting retirees. That created an issue with transplants, second homeowners from, for instance, like California. We had a huge issue, especially like Indian Hills, where we had a bunch of second homes from people from California, Texas, who had a lot of money when they sold their home in California and they bought a second home here. So a lot of those homes were vacant. And so I've been approached to try to do that again with some of these lodgers tax dollars, and I don't think that's appropriate at this time, especially considering the lack of housing we have for the current residents of Silver City. So with that, I just want to say, on top of that, I would like to ensure that the council take a more active role in setting the agenda of how we recruit and promote our community. So once this contract is awarded, I would like for the first council meeting in November that the recipient of this contract come in and make a proposal as far as the marketing of tourism in our community. So that way we can incorporate the council's priorities for that marketing. So with that, the town did receive 5 RFPs, and from Mariposa Marketing out of Albuquerque, Sinclair Communications out of El Paso, SkyWest Media from Silver City, Vox Optima out of Albuquerque, as well as Sunny 505 out of Albuquerque, and it's staff's recommendation that we'll award it to Sunny 505 out of Albuquerque.
Are there any questions? Councilor Kano?
It's actually more of a statement. I'm thankful that this process went through again. I think it was important that that happened. I'm a little concerned that we're going to give them money and then we're going to ask them to do what we want. Is there anything in that contract that says they will do what we want? Because the marketing has not been good the past few years, and it's with this group. So I'm very concerned. I've asked 3 times for them to come. Now hopefully it'll happen in November. But I just want to know if there's some kind of a system in place so that if we don't like what they're doing, they have to do what we want and not continue to do what they're doing.
Yes, we will have to do a new contract with them when this is awarded. And so as part of that contract, we can incorporate quarterly presentations.
Okay.
And so that way the council can play a more active role in the marketing. So that way you can see what they've been doing, what the outcomes have been for those short terms of time. And this way we can ensure that we're getting what you want. Okay?
Good.
So that's my proposal. So it's, again, and I'm saying that in front of our attorney because he's going to work on the contract. And so I just wanted to say again, so it's staff's recommendation to award it to Sunny 505 out of Albuquerque.
Any other comments or questions? Yeah, bringing tourists to Silver City has a second effect. And during my last 2 Monday with the mayor meetings, I met 3 people who came here as tourists and fell in love with Silver City, came again and visited 3 times for one person until they eventually decided to move here and bought a home. So it does have, spin-off effects as well. I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Prince.
I move to approve RFP 24/25-1 RP Marketing Services to Sunny 505 119 Dartmouth, Southeast Albuquerque, New Mexico 87106.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Bencomo?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Cedillo.
Councilor Bencomo. Councilor Prince.
Aye.
Councilor Snyder.
Aye.
Councilor Kano.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next on the agenda is item 11C, the approval/disapproval of Resolution 2024-21, Participation in Transportation Project Fund Program, administered by New Mexico Department of Transportation. Mr. Brown?
Mayor and Council, this resolution is to accept funding that was awarded to the town of Silver City through the TPIF funds. This program requires a 5% match, which in this case would be $17,520, which is currently available in the budget of the town of Silver City. This project would look at the feasibility of extending Sheriff's Posse Road from its location on 180 through 32nd Street bypass. So because that's the one large piece of land that is developable in Silver City, it doesn't tie us to doing the road or anything. It just looks at all of our options to develop a road through that area. The owners of the current property, owners of those 2 locations, actually have agreed that if we're able to prove that we can safely and efficiently build a road through those two areas, they will donate the right-of-way for a road if we're able to move forward.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Brown? Councilor Prince?
Land use and development, of course. It's been one of the hotter conversations, and just ensuring then that we're going to have appropriate mixes for affordable housing across our city. The partnerships that we come up with and the developments that we have to connect all of the resources in our community. Occasionally, we're the ones left holding the bag. We're the ones left holding the bill, and we have to come up with incentives. This council has given hundreds of thousands of dollars in incentives then for new housing and new development over the years. And I know that with the public meetings that have occurred, I think that what the call is based on actual numbers with our vacancy rates and availabilities of rentals. We have commitments, and I just want to make sure all of those ones, if at all possible, we can ensure to have on the public minutes and on the public record, public accountability for all of the work that we're all putting in to ensure that we have available, accessible, equitable housing. These are things then that we want to make sure our community is affordable for people. So whatever can be done then to communicate that over to the developers, as much of that conversation that can happen in public would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Snyder.
I move to approve Resolution 2024-21, Participation in Transportation Project Fund Program administered by New Mexico Department of Transportation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Kano.
Mr. Mayor, I'll second that motion as stated.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please, Mr. Cedillo.
Councilor Bencomo?
Aye.
Councilor Prince?
Aye.
Councilor Snyder?
Aye.
Councilor Kano?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next is item 11D. So be patient as I read through this, and I'll ask the council to read through in your minds and make sure I don't skip any lines. This item is the approval/disapproval of Resolution 2024-22, a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a Colonias Infrastructure Project Fund loan/grant agreement, parentheses, agreement or loan/grant agreement, close parentheses, by and between the New Mexico Finance Authority, parentheses, NMFA or lender grantor, close parentheses, and the town of Silver City, parentheses, borrower/grantee, close parentheses, in the total amount of $345,500, evidencing an obligation of the borrower/grantee to utilize the loan/grant amount solely for the purpose of financing the cost of the design and survey of roads and drainage improvements on Swan Street, and solely in the manner described in the loan/grant agreement, providing for the pledge and payment of the loan amount of $34,550 solely from the borrower/grantee's ordinance number 671, adopted on August 17, 1981, with an effective date of January 1, 1982, imposing a 1/4% 0.25% increment of the municipal gross receipts tax from which the borrower/grantee pledges to the payment of the loan payments 1/8 of 1%, 0.125%, which municipal gross receipts tax has been de-earmarked and is now enforceable under NMSA 1978 7-19D-9 as amended. Acceptance of a grant amount of $310,950, certifying that the loan/grant amount, together with other funds available to the borrower/grantee, is sufficient to complete the project approving the form of and other details concerning the loan/grant agreement, ratifying actions heretofore taken, repealing all action inconsistent with this resolution, and authorizing the taking of other actions in connection with the execution and delivery of the loan/grant agreement. Mr. Brown?
Mayor and Council, we were awarded two Colonias grants this last year. One was for the plan and design of Swan Street from 32nd Street to the city limits. This would widen the road, include bike lanes and sidewalks on both sides of the streets. So the $34,550 is included in the town's budget currently, so we can accomplish that portion of it. So it's staff's recommendation that we approve the resolution so we can move forward.
Are there any questions for Mr. Brown? Councilor Prince?
Just wanted to commend the work that we see now that we're in phase 4 of Little Walnut Road, and the extension of the road in my district has been something that's been met as something much needed. And to be able to see that, then number one complaint I get is, why aren't we doing anything on Swan Street? And then I get to go point to the ICIP. Being able to now be able to work towards this resolution here is fantastic, and I appreciate all the efforts to ensure access in our community. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Prince?
I move to approve Resolution 2024-22, a resolution authorizing the execution and delivery of a Colonias Infrastructure Project Fund loan/grant agreement, parentheses, agreement or loan/grant agreement by and between the New Mexico Finance Authority and MFA or lender/guarantor and the town of Silver City, borrower/grantee, in the total amount of $345,500, evidencing an obligation of the borrower/grantee to utilize the loan/grant amount solely for the purpose of financing the cost of the design and survey of roads and drainage improvements on Swan Street, and solely in the manner described in the loan/grant agreement, providing for the pledge and payment of the loan amount of $34,550 solely from the borrower/grantee's ordinance number 671, adopted on August 17, 1981, with an effective date of January 1st, 1982, imposing a 1/4% tax increment of the municipal gross receipts tax from which the borrower/grantee pledges to the payment of the loan payments 1/8 of 1%, 0.125%, which municipal gross receipts tax has been de-earmarked and is now enforceable under NMSA 1978 7-19D-9 as amended. Acceptance of a grant amount of $310,950, certifying that the loan/grant amount, together with other funds available to the borrower/grantee, is sufficient to complete the project. Approving the form of and other details concerning the loan/grant agreement, ratifying actions heretofore taken, repealing all action inconsistent with this resolution, and authorizing the taking of other actions in connection with the execution and delivery of the loan/grant agreement.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Snyder?
I second the motion as stated.
You have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please. Mrs. Cedillo?
Councilor Prince.
Aye.
Councilor Stryder.
Aye.
And Councilor Coniff.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next is item 11E, the approval/disapproval of Resolution 2024-23, a resolution concerning the proposal of the United States Air Force to use the airspace over the Gila National Forest and Gila Wilderness for low-altitude combat training. Councilor Snyder, I think this is your item.
Yes, basically this resolution is dealing with the Air Force wanting to do training flights over various locations, Arizona and New Mexico. But the main one we're concerned about is Gila. They'll do low altitude.
Councilor Snyder, do you have that in written form?
No.
Would you read it, please?
No, I don't.
Huh?
Yeah, I don't. This ordinance basically, this resolution basically is saying we oppose the Air Force to do combat training over the Gila due to the fact that they're going to be doing low combat training flights that has sonic booms, loud noise. It's going to affect animals. It also is going to drop chaff and flares onto the Gila, which is a fire hazard. And as far as Silver City goes, we are the gateway to the Gila Wilderness, and we could feel this economically. And we are very concerned about what goes on in the Gila Wilderness.
Thank you. Is there a second? That was a motion. Is there a second?
No, I was just talking about the.
Oh, okay. Do I hear a motion?
Okay. I move to approve Resolution 2024-23, a resolution concerning the proposal of the United States Air Force to use the airspace over the Gila National Forest and Gila Wilderness for low-altitude combat training.
Thank you. Is there a second? Councilor Bincoma?
I'll second that statement.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please. Oh, Councilor Kano?
I'd just like to thank Councilor Snyder for bringing this forward. I think it's extremely important that we do this. I too am very concerned, especially because the Air Force has already stated that if they start a forest fire, they will not be responsible. And because of the fact that we live so close to the forest, it's scary. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other, Councilor Prince?
I also wish to commend Councilor Snyder for bringing this to us. It feels like we just had this fight a couple of years ago, I believe with the expansion that was coming out of Holloman, and from the number of veterans that I have in my community, a number of whom live here, both for the quality of life and for the peace that it's able to be afforded. I can absolutely affirm that this community has given and served quite a bit then, so has their state, for military operations. Thank you so much for bringing this forward.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, are we ready for roll call? Mr. Sadid?
Council Bincoma.
Aye.
Council Prince.
Aye.
Council Snyder.
Aye.
Council Connor.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Mr. Brown, is it possible to send this resolution along with the vote result to the Air Force Command?
Yeah, they have a website, and there's a way we can just attach that to the website. In fact, when this was proposed, I have already submitted the proposed resolution to the Air Force and basically stated we're thinking that it's going to pass. And all we need to do now is go ahead and put this back on with a signed resolution stating that Silver City
Okay.
is not.
Great, thank you. We skipped 11A and moved it to above reports. Next is item 12. This concludes the business of the town of Silver City. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Prince?
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. We're hereby adjourned.